Welcome to Chapter 14, Navigating Legal and IP Issues from the Entrepreneurship, the Practice and Mindset, Second Edition. Before I begin, this navigating legal and IP issues is just from an educational perspective. I am not a practicing attorney, nor am I pretending to be an attorney here. All of this information is given on an educational basis. For more information on legal and IP issues, please speak to a proper attorney to get the legal representation and to get the legal perspectives of it. Again, this is just for educational purposes. Please don't take this as official legal advice, as I am not a practicing attorney. So, legal considerations, legal costs depend on the business that you're at. So the more advanced your company is in terms of, if you have technology such as IP involved in it, copyright, some of those costs may vary in terms of legal costs that come with it. Attorneys are not cheap. They can be very costly. So be wary and be aware that lawyers are not cheap. You can find legal counsel around your area. So if you just go on Google, you can type in, IP attorneys or business attorneys, and of course, make sure that you go and speak to the proper attorney, look at their website and make sure that they cover what you're looking for. The USPTO provides a pro bono legal support. You can find a SCORE association. So SCORE association is an association of retired business owners who volunteer their time to this nonprofit organization to help individuals such as yourself who are starting a business. So, go online, look up SCORE organization around my area, and find your most nearest SCORE organization. They can also navigate you and help you go in the right direction. Again, it's very important to choose the right kind of legal structure. So there are a variety of types of legal structures. So one of the first ones is a sole proprietorship, and that's basically a person who owns a business but has not put in a separate entity to run it. So basically, you run it yourself. The problem with the sole proprietorship, if you're going to be a consultant, a one-person show, perhaps this may be the best route for you. But if you're going to own a storefront, like say for example, you're going to put up a bike shop in your town, you should not have a sole proprietorship at all, because all legal obligations are upon you as the individual, and any person who sues you can go after your own personal stuff. So do not form a sole proprietorship if you're going to open up a store, right, where people are going to come in. A lot of people choose this type of structure because it's the cheapest and easiest way. But the cheapest and easiest way is always probably not the best form, depending on your business structure. General partnership, that's when two or more people manage and share the profit and losses. Of course, taxes are paid your personal income tax rates. Of course, each partner is personally liable. General partnerships are pretty common in terms of law or other forms of practice, consulting as well. But be very wary of general partnership. They say that, having a partner in business is harder than a marriage. So be very careful about a general partnership. You have to have a lot of trust on the other individual to make sure that everything is going smoothly. And of course, you guys are sharing the profits and losses. So if your partner is not doing too well and costing business, what happens when you got to cut ties? And I will suggest, though, that all legal documentations between the partners should be signed before the first money comes in. It's easier to form a partnership or form some legal documentation between two or more people when there's really no money involved than when there is money involved. So my suggestion would be make sure you get it all in writing, get all the documents signed, milestones, or whatever it may be in paper before you actually open your doors and start getting paid. A C corporation, that's a separate legal entity created by the state government. Of course, a corporation is legally liable. There are some advantage in transferring ownership. So C corporations, depending on what type of entity of business, may make sense to you, but just make sure that you read the legal and tax obligations of a C corporation. Again, it's owned by one or few stockholders. Corporate tax is calculated again, so you have corporate taxes at the C corporation. S corporations, there's no more than 100 shareholders. Again, the income and losses is passed to the company's shareholders' tax returns. Limited liability company, aside from the sole proprietorship, limited liability company or LLC is probably one of the most popular ones to open, even for a one-person individual. That combines the pass-through taxation aspects. So, of course, there can be a partnership with this. The profits and losses are reported on the individual tax returns. Of course, having a LLC also has some form of protection against your personal assets as well. You can have a limited partnership or a limited liability partnership. Again, just like the general partnership of having a limited liability partnership, it doesn't prohibit members from involvement in management, grants limited liability to all members. So if you're going to form a partnership, perhaps this may be the best route. Again, talk with an attorney to see what may be the best legal structure for your company. A benefit corporation, of course, strict standards of social and environmental standards. And of course, ensures that for-profit companies fulfill their social mission. So you may be seeing these around, like B corporations. These are kind of up in the rise in terms of businesses. So you may see it's like this black sort of logo with the B Corp. That's that's companies who are having a social cause in regards to their for-profit mission for their for-profit company. So they have a for-profit with a mission of environmental or social mission. Non-for-profit entities. This one, you definitely need to get legal counsel on this if you're going, not that you wouldn't in the other previous ones, but non-profit organizations such as 501c3s and others can be complicated depending on what you want to do and the way that you want to structure it. You definitely need to do it properly. There's a lot more paperwork involved with it. Of course, there are some benefits with nonprofit entities. You get some tax benefits along with nonprofit, but of course, with that it comes with a lot more responsibility in terms of the legal structure, in terms of what you can and cannot do as a nonprofit organization. And of course, all nonprofits are exempt from income tax. So organization earnings do not benefit individuals. You can't have shareholders. So if you want to get rich, nonprofit is probably not the way to go. So again, it's just you're there for a cause, not so much for the financial benefits, more for the cause. Legal mistakes made by startups. Again, a lot of startups make the mistakes of forming the wrong business structure. Again, if you're going to start a business, if you're going to start a bicycle shop, or you're going to start a storefront of any sorts, probably a sole proprietorship is probably not the best way to go, again, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a legal expert here, but again, you want to talk to one. Experienced investors generally invest only in C corporations. So again, if you're going to have a startup and if you're going to eventually ask for funding from investors, then form a C corporation from the very beginning. Have the founders agreement. Again, this is probably one of the most important documents that I highly recommend that you form at the very beginning. There should be no qualms about forming this founders agreement. If you are working with a partner and that partner decides that, I don't think we should have a founders agreement. Let's just do it by word. Trust me, everything's going to be all right. I don't want to do this. Or you keep pushing it, walk away. Walk away. If that person does not want to sign a founders agreement between two or more people of the business, the partnership, the business, how it's going to rerun, who's going to say what, who's going to own this, the percentages, the milestones, what happens in case someone leaves a company, all those things, if there's not written down before you open up shop and that person doesn't want to sign it, walk away. Because if you don't sign it right now before the first dollar drops in and you continue this route, there's going to be problems. I probably almost guarantee there will be problems. So make sure that there's written agreement between two or more people. Um, this is going to make life much more easier for the company when there's written documentation, because people will easily forget if it's not written down. There is you know, you can email someone things, but you have to get it in the legal structure. IP, intellectual property, right, describes the intangible personal property. So IP protects you know, one's inventions in a sense, right? A lot of startups depend on IP protection. It's the most valuable asset for startups. So again, if you have intellectual property, make sure you talk to the proper attorneys to get that structured out of the way. Again, there are 4 types of intellectual property. There's copyright. So if you write a book, piece of art, right, you can protect original works. It's not that hard to get a copyright online if you go do it yourself. There may be a little, some things may be a little complicated, but you can navigate yourself. But if you want to get an attorney on it, that's totally fine. It takes a little while to get the copyright, but it really protects your work. Trademark, of course, word, name, symbol used to identify a product. A trade secret is confidential information. A trade secret, of course, you don't file anything. It's just you keep it secret. A classic example of a trade secret is WD-40. That's a classic example of a trade secret. Nobody knows what goes in WD-40. Coca-Cola, the drink, that's a trade secret. Nobody knows what goes into Coca-Cola. A patent, a grant of property rights on invention. So that's what a patent is. An NDE, you may hear of this, or NDA. Sometimes there are individuals who make you sign a non-disclosure agreement. Basically, you can't talk about it. Just basically protecting the individual against the threat of IP theft. A lot of people, especially in the biotech world, usually have this kind of thing. Yeah, you know, I don't know if all companies need a non-disclosure agreement, right? If you're gonna open up a grocery store, I mean, do you really need an NDE, a non-disclosure agreement? Again, it depends on what you're trying to do, but not everything needs to have a non-disclosure agreement. Just be wary of that, about non-disclosure agreements. IP theft has a negative impact on business. Again, there are people out there stealing people's IP rights. Again, make sure that you register for local IP ownership within that country. You know, if you're going to open up shop in Europe, make sure you sign your IP there as well. In those parts of Europe, Asia, wherever it may be, make sure you sign up your IP there. Publicly disclosing your invention. Again, disclosing means you might not be able to even patent your product. Failure to protect your product and processes. Again, you have to protect it. Definitely have to protect your IP. Don't fall into the trap of not protecting it. Again, an inability to determine originality. So you have to, in order to protect your IP, it has to be original. Again, it has to be original. So just note that, just because you submit for IP doesn't mean you'll get it. So that's why I would highly recommend legal counsel if you're going to go the IP route. Failure to assign ownership. Best to make formal agreements regarding IP ownership. Ownership can even invest in people you haven't paid. So make sure you get that. Again, a lot of folks sometimes make the mistake of not protecting IP in global markets. Again, if you're going to sell in different territories, so for example, if you're going to sell your software or your product in Europe or Africa continent or Asia, whatever it may be, make sure that you get the right legal advice in terms of how to protect that IP, because there are people out there in the world who will, if they find out that yours is not IP protected, they're going to go after and then of course imitate it, your product or your service. Hiring employees. You have to understand the labor laws of we're talking about the United States. You have to understand the labor laws of each state. Each state functions a little differently in regards to labor laws. Some labor laws are much more stricter than others. For example, California has pretty strict labor laws compared to like Mississippi. So understand that even if you're hiring labor out, like for example, let's say for example, your company's in California and you hire someone from the state of Virginia, you have to understand the laws of Virginia if that person is working remotely, because that person living in Virginia has to abide by the Virginia labor laws. Equal employment opportunity, of course, you can't discriminate. There's prohibition of discrimination, protection of disabilities, and no discrimination regarding sexual orientation. Federal laws, again, that's what the federal laws. Employee identification number. Make sure that you get an EIN number. So that's pretty easy to get online. When you open your business, make sure you get, that's the basic identification number for your company when you submit tax work or other things. Of course, again, it's to use in documents and tax returns. So make sure you get that. Unemployment and workers' comp, register with Labor Department to pay unemployment compensation taxes. Again, and then also depending on the business size, you register for workers' compensation insurance. Employee forms. Set up personal files containing important documents for each employee. Benefits. Decide what benefits you can provide your employees. Again, the basic necessities, Social Security taxes, family and medical, optional benefits. So you don't have to, just note that when you start a business and you're gonna have employees, they may not get all of the great benefits at first. Just know that there are some things that you will have to take care of. Safety measures, again, have a safe and maintain a safe and healthy workplace. Maintain all records and filing tax records. Hiring a contractor or an employee. You have to make a very clear distinction of what's a contractor and what's an employee. That makes the difference between a W-2 and an I-90. So, a 1099, sorry. A 1099 is a form for a contractor to sign. A contractor just gets paid, doesn't get any benefits. But again, just be very careful as to hiring a contractor or an employee. Some industries limit you on how many contractors you can sign, depending on the state. So be very wary in your industry. How many contractors can I have on the payroll, and how many employees do I need to have on a payroll? So make sure you distinguish between that. There is, of course, valuable cost savings in hiring contractors. When you hire a contractor, a 1099, you don't have to pay them all the benefits that you do to an employee. You just pay them, here's this lump sum, and here is what you do. That's the benefit of a contractor. Contractors are easily able to let them go. Like once the contract is over, you let them go. An employee is not that easy to let go. And of course, misclassifying contractors and employees has legal consequences. So be very wary of that. And of course, significant factor is the amount of control the employer has. Compensating employees, of course, you have to be very wary that in startups, your employees are more than likely probably not going to get paid what they believe they should get paid. That's why startups have to make it very valuable for someone to work for them. You may not be able to pay them top dollar now, but perhaps later on you can give them some form of stock ownership in the company, some equity. Again, form some type of equity in the company for those of you starting. Unpaid internships. Be very careful of unpaid internships. There are states now that are cracking down on unpaid internships. Internships are great. Unpaid internships are great to have, but again, you get what you get, right? If someone's coming in not getting paid, be very wary of the work that they're going to submit. I mean, do you really want an unpaid intern running your company's social media? So be very wary of what you're going to use unpaid internships, and find out if even unpaid interns are, what's the legal obligations of an unpaid intern. So that is it for Chapter 14, Navigating Legal and IP Issues from the Entrepreneurship, the Practice, and Mindset, Second Edition. Again, this was just information given from an educational perspective. I am not a practicing attorney, and should you have any more detailed questions in regards to the legal applications of anything that I talked to, whether it's an employment or business structure or anything implicating taxes, please speak to, or IP, please speak to the proper attorney in your area for more information. Thank you and have a great day.